Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Reboot Your Brain podcast. I'm Dr. Barrett, and I am so excited about our guest today. Dr. Irene Cop is going to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the brain when we are under stress and what we can do about it. Dr. Irene, so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Amelia.
So let's start. Tell us a little bit about your very impressive background.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I am a medical doctor. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, and I am the CEO and founder of the Stress to Success Shift Institute.
Wow. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the effects of stress on the brain?
Great question, Dr. Amelia. And it all depends on what phase of the stress cycle you are in, as well as how effectively you manage your stress. So, to start, I'll give a really quick overview of the phases of stress and what your brain goes through in that time. So, in the very beginning, when your brain first perceives a threat, right, before you are even consciously aware of it, your hardwired stress response kicks into gear. It's milliseconds. And in that time, you go into whatever hardwired response you have. Just like animals, we either want to run away, we want to fight, we freeze and pretend, hope they don't notice us, or we faint and play dead. And no matter which of those, we still have the common physical responses in our body and in our brains. So in our brains, your what I love to call your executive rock star team, your prefrontal cortex gets wiped offline because that's not the time to think. So your prefrontal cortex is what's needed for thinking logically, coming up with creative solutions, making good decisions, acting on those decisions, and also regulating your emotions. So that's the very first thing that gets wiped offline. At the same time, the parts of the brain that are involved in focused, right? It's like you get like hyper focused, hyper vigilant. You almost like tunnel vision. It's like you're focused on that one threat. Your pupils dilate and blood rushes to your brain as well as to your muscles. All of this happens without you even realizing it. And it happens within, like, as I said, milliseconds. Now, if the threat goes on, say you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, right, and they're not giving up, it's like you have to go into the marathon stage. It's like, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. You got to keep going. Your body releases cortisol hormone, which is kind of like, think of medium octane your energy. And it impacts the brain by spiking your blood sugar, right? Because it wants to have sugar for your brain, for your muscles, for the fuel. It as a side effect, unfortunately, ruins your stress, your sleep, so that you're more likely to have sleep problems, whether it's racing mind going to sleep, whether you wake up in the middle of the night, or just even that you're just not getting a restorative sleep. That is all part of this. And it also impacts your metabolism in multiple ways, so that you'll likely find that you're gaining weight. Most people under stress tend to gain weight. Some lose, that's it. But the vast majority actually gain weight. So that's the middle term. If it goes on too long, you hit a stage where you've run out of energy. You've run out of all of the tools in your arsenal. And in your body, that's called adrenal exhaustion. In your brain, it's like the lights are gone. It's like the lights are out and you got nothing left. And so the very important thing to understand is that while all of these effects are what might happen, I'm going to just show a quick image of what's called functional MRI, which actually measures your blood oxygen levels in your brain. as colors in your brain. So for those of you not watching the actual video, I'm showing here a picture of two brains. One that is under stress and not coping so well, right? It's like full on in stress response mode. And that is actually where you might find yourself with risky coping mechanisms like emotional eating, binge drinking, or doing drugs, or whatever other coping mechanism. It might be addictions, it might be retail therapy, right? Whatever makes you feel good at the time is what you'll jump to as a way to make yourself feel better and kind of give yourself a momentary like hot, up your energy, right? Whereas the good news is that you can learn resilience coping skills that light up your prefrontal cortex again, which means that you can think straight, you can think logically, you can make good decisions, and you can act on them, and you're not hauling off and slugging somebody because you're angry at them.
Wow, this is amazing. So, what I'm hearing here then is that when we are under stress, a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex goes offline. And it sounds like that's kind of the seat of our higher human cells. But what you're saying is based on this MRI research, we can actually learn techniques that will keep our prefrontal cortex working for us even during those times of stress. Is that right?
Absolutely. And it's those uh, resilience tools. Resilience just means how easily you adapt, as well as it's it's also how confident you are in how you can handle and effectively manage stressful events, curveballs as I like to call them, right? Because life is always going to throw curveballs, trauma, adversity, and it's how well we respond to them. So it is first and foremost about understanding that you're not bad, stupid, or lazy when you have that initial knee jerk reaction. It's your hardwired stress response. And then understanding that very shortly, within seconds or minutes, with training, you can bring your thinking brain back online so that you can effectively manage the situation and control it.
Yeah, so this is super empowering information for people. And so, what I'm curious about is this: how do people know if they may need to develop these tools? In other words, how do they know if they're having these symptoms of stress on the brain? Are there symptoms that people get that can tip them off?
Absolutely. So what I see with people, because when they are under stress, they don't necessarily realize it. In fact, many of my elite performer, like high achiever clients would say, I'm not under stress. This is just normal for me. Right. It's kind of like, I know you're a specialist in headaches. That's like saying, well, I only get normal headaches. Right. Like,
Yeah.
right. So the symptoms that people, and I'll say signs, like in other words, family members might say, like, so they might feel anxious, they may feel overwhelmed, they they may feel like they have brain fog, they their memory goes out the window. It's like it's kind of like standing in front of the fridge, wondering why they went there in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes they even feel like they're losing their marbles. Like, am I getting early Alzheimer's? Because I can't think of words. I can't remember what I did 5 minutes ago, and I have to go back. And did I lock the door? Um, their sleep is poor, whether they have a racing mind and can't get to sleep, or whether they're waking up in the middle of the night. At any rate, they're waking up exhausted, which is another symptom that they may not attribute to the stress, where it's just like, why am I so tired and I need another coffee, and oh, I better have that donut to go with the coffee because I need more energy, right? Which causes like a whole nasty cycle that we could talk about other times. They can't get motivated. They can't get
Hmm.
motivated. They may be like grind to a halt, and they're the couch potato, or they're they're distracting themselves, mindlessly scrolling Instagram or Facebook. So they can't focus, they're exhausted, they feel like they have low energy. They're, as we mentioned in the first question you asked me, they're gaining weight, especially that troublesome belly fat that feels and looks awful, and so they're feeling crappy about themselves and wondering, like, why am I gaining weight? They have cravings for their comfort foods, which goes back to that donut, right? Because they have cravings because your brain is telling you that it's like, you may be starving to death, I need you to eat, right? So there's the emotional side of, I want to feel better, but then you're actually having cravings for those very foods, high carb foods
Wow.
that
Yeah.
will give you that increase in sugar for your brain and your muscles.
Wow, yeah. So that's a lot more going on. I think most people would just sort of automatically think stress feels like, racing hard, things like that. But you're describing so many other things that people might go to see their doctor for that really can all be traced back to stress. That's good to know. So, what can people do once they're in this situation? Do you have any sort of quick tips for us?
Absolutely. So as I said when I showed the that amazing picture of the functional MRI, you can train your brain and your body to be more resilient. One of the favorite ways that I teach people that takes only seconds is that your actions create your feelings. And that means that your body language sends a message to you and especially to your brain telling you how to feel. So, for instance, if you're smiling, it activates the smile muscles and sends the message up to the brain they're happy. So it's not just the other way where you feel good and so therefore you smile. So literally I will have clients stick a pencil between their teeth like that. Exactly. Which, whether no matter how bad you're feeling, it puts you into that smile position. And not only it may make you laugh because you're feeling kind of funny about it,
That's what
but I
I'm
literally
thinking.
teach this to whole families. Like and the whole family has permission to stick a pencil in it. Much of resilience is knowing that you have the confidence, the self-belief that you've got what it takes no matter what is thrown at you. So there's a really good reason why any military spends so long with new recruits, teaching them posture, right? Shoulders down, stand up or sit up straight, chin up, gaze straight forward, and you can add a smile on it, right? Because that is sending the message to your brain that I'm confident. I've got what it takes no matter what, even if it means racing headlong into the heat of battle.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well said. So, Dr. Irene, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your expertise with us. I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been it's what I'm passionate about. So thank you very much for allowing me to help.
Thanks again. Bye, everybody.